how can I hit $250,000? That was my goal.
And this is
Yeah.
the summertime. So like, it's not like you're saying you're starting at the beginning of January. Everybody's got the juice going, ready to go. This is July, August doldrums. And you're like, I'm going to hit $250,000. If you are an enterprise sales, you're going to want to listen to this conversation because I have with me Jonathan Pierce. Jonathan, welcome to today's podcast.
Hey, Raj, thanks for having me.
Jonathan is the kind of guy, he's an enterprise account executive. He's the kind of guy that's given a sales presentation on how you do sales, and he gets a crowd of people around him to ask for more information. So if you're looking to do enterprise sales, you're going to want to hear what he has to say. We're going to dissect and completely deconstruct how to get sales. Two types. One is sales that are about $20,000 to $60,000 annual recurring revenue. So that's one type, which is a very common sweet spot for many companies. And then we're going to go into how he closed a $500,000 sale, which he does regularly. And we're going to completely deconstruct how to do that because there's lots of moving parts. So let's get started. Jonathan, again, welcome to the podcast. Tell us just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an MBA. I've owned my own company doing web design. I've also been a director of business development at a ISP and helped save them from going bankrupt. And they were able to, then sell that company off. I've done a lot of sales, as an AE, as an SDR at startups. Mm-hmm. And I'm just really passionate about, now cybersecurity and everything IT. So.
I remember, when you and I were talking just a while back, you had closed $250,000 in sales in your first quarter with a company. Now, that's something that a lot of reps aspire to ramp up to. You hit it your first quarter, and you've consistently been ranked as one of the top sales team members of most of the companies you've ever worked with. And so we want to figure out, well, what makes Jonathan tick so that as other sales reps listen to this, they can replicate some of your success. So let's start with that $250,000 in one quarter, which is $1 million a year that you're adding to the business. And, when you think about that, it's repeat business. So it's cumulative. So in 3 years, that's $3 million that you closed over that one course. So let's go and talk about how did you get those sales? You said you did it initially by cold calling. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I had the fortunate, career path right before hopping back into IT. I worked at State Farm. So at State Farm, you're going to click the dial in Salesforce, and the goal is to dial 100 to 150 dials a day. So in that process, you've got to be really good at reading people. And there's a lot of techniques of listening and maybe where is that person at? And you're trying to visually position them. Hey, did you catch them while they're driving? Don't try to give your pitch then. Listen, I respect you. Hey, I caught you at the wrong time. Mind if I just call you this afternoon at 3 at a better time? So if you can be respectful of people's time and be concise, you're going to get more time with them. Just believe that fact. So coming back into IT, because I took a break from IT, coming back into it, I started like first week of June, and then the quarter would start, in July. So how can I hit $250,000? That was my goal. Just the first quarter.
And this is the summertime. So like, it's not like you're saying you're starting at the beginning of January. Everybody's got the juice going, ready to go. This is July, August doldrums. And you're like, I'm going to hit $250,000. So that's ambitious to start. Let's talk from there. Like first, like, how did you know who to call? Which is one of the biggest things. And then what did you do? What did you say?
Yeah, the management was really good at picking, an assortment of people out of Zoom info and throw it in the auto dialer and we can dial away. But, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You're going to need to know a little bit about the person, what they do on a day-to-day basis, but you've got to be super concise. And I think we talked about this last time was, hey, this is Jonathan at Company X. Did I catch you at a really quick second? And all I'm doing is trying to buy more time. I'm saying it promptly, confidently, and very quickly, making sure I'm respectful of their time. And if they say, what? If they kind of stumble or they want to hear more, they're trying to qualify you, go ahead and give more of your message. Yeah, this is Jonathan. I'm a, this or that sales engineer or account executive at this MSP, and we do cybersecurity for, it's okay to name drop a couple logos, but, I want to be a resource for you because it's that old adage of, be useful and you're going to get used, and then do your ask. So you tell a little more. It's like that conversation bank. Don't withdraw before you've deposited. I don't know a bank that's going to let you do that. It's the
Yeah,
same with
yeah,
people. So
yeah.
say a little bit of value to about it, and then ask for that 3 minutes. Hey, can I just get 3 minutes next week, or is that a complete waste of your time to talk about cybersecurity?
I like the way you just phrased that, because you've qualified them very quickly just with that last line. Are you guys talking about this XYZ topic? Uh, and then you're checking to see, or would that be a waste of your time? Um, so tell me about the kind of responses you get to a line like that.
Yeah, and that's you're ready for whatever response is next because hey, you know what? We're not talking about that right now, but we're going to look at it in January. Now you just filled your pipe for January to start a conversation then. So you're building your pipeline generation. The people that say, "Yeah, that's great." Okay, well, Tuesday or Thursday next week, right? You want to pick some time between Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Mondays are bad, Fridays are extra bad. So
Hmm.
don't put your meetings on the bad days. Put it right in the middle of the week. Grab their time. You are important. Don't be afraid to get it. And then throw,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, I'll do Tuesday. That would be the next step. So then now we're looking for a time. Hey, are you a morning or afternoon person? And if they say what, again, what's the call quality? Where are they at? Can they hear you? If say something different, don't say the same thing. Okay, how about 10 or 2? Go for the time, get the time. Hey, well, I'll throw it out there for 30 minutes in case we run over, but 5 minutes, you tell me it's not useful. There we go. So be succinct, be concise, and they're going to respect that. And they're going to remember you.
Jonathan, a lot of people are saying that cold calling is becoming very difficult now because people just aren't picking up the phone. Yet you're able to close so much business even by doing cold calling. What's your reaction to that sentiment that's out there?
Yeah, I get a lot of people that come into sales and I'll coach and train, even SDRs and AEs alike. The AEs that don't survive are the ones that aren't cold calling. Cold calling, you are interrupting that person's day. They don't know your number. They're giving you that time and you can immediately see their reaction. Compare that to email and you're trying to land something, you don't know any response. So you're able to just throw another blind message to them. Cold calling, hey, how are you? Ah, that's their response or whatever their energy is. You can craft the next sentence right there on the fly and try to engage them. It's like fishing, and you need to get good at catching little fish before you go after the big fish too, which is kind of what we wanted to talk about today with
Do you
enterprise.
find that people are picking up the phone still, or is that just like becoming less and less a thing?
No, people are picking up the phone. That's the
Okay.
reason I became the number one seller at the last job. So that's
Hmm.
that's the
And
critical piece.
what do you do if you get somebody's voicemail?
Yeah, voicemails. Some of the more recent auto dialers, they'll launch a canned message that you've already pre-recorded. You can leave a voicemail. I haven't seen that the statistics are there for it. Just mark that person as able to answer and try to call them again.
Hmm. Okay, so don't give up if they haven't answered. You just call one more time, a
Keep
later,
calling.
different time, different day, that kind of thing. Now, when you had your list of people to call to be able to close 15, 20 deals that are in the 20 to 60K range inside 3 months, that's a pretty short sales cycle also. So it's not like you got a 3 month sales cycle. These close relatively quickly. And on top of that, I guess you had more than you probably had a certain number of dials you needed to make. So what was that? You mentioned, when you're selling insurance, it was 100, 150. What was it for selling IT services?
Yeah, when you use an auto dialer, it's a little bit different, right? So it's going to call more than you expect. So coming from State Farm, where I'm calling 120 a day, clicking in Salesforce to dial, in the auto
Hmm.
dollar world, I'm trying to hit 600 to $800 a day to build my pipeline. And I did
Mm.
that, for at least the first 4 to 6 weeks. And then I trailed off and, as the pipeline grew and my time was spent more doing deep dives and disco calls and, I'm doing less and less dialing, but you never stop. You have to keep building your funnel. And I think a lot of
600.
AEs don't have that grit to keep going. So,
I think a lot of people don't have the grit to just like do 600 dials a day. That's really impressive. I mean, like when you think about that, it's 3,000 in a week. Do you have an estimate of connect rates? Like how many people did you speak with? What was your goal for that?
Yeah, I mean, if you can walk away, it doesn't matter. I was at a startup selling, a SaaS product and even selling, cybersecurity tools for MSSP. If you can walk away with booking 3 disco calls a day, that's a good number. I think even when I look out at new cutting edge AI SaaS tools, they're saying, "Hey, I got 2 a day. That was a good day." So
Mhm.
anything you can get above two, to me, 3 is the minimum because I need
Mhm.
to fill my
And
pipe. Yeah.
yeah, just for everybody listening, disco is discovery calls, which leads to that next step. So let's continue walking through the process. You've got $600 you're doing in a day, looking to set up 3 discovery calls in a day. So you got the person on the phone and you've been able to set up that call. What's the
Yeah, so
next step?
you send over your LinkedIn, connect with them on LinkedIn as well, so they got a face with a name because you're cold calling them. Send over the appointment with your Zoom or Teams, whatever method, and then we're going to keep dialing. And then when it comes to that day, I still block off. I think the highest percentage time to cold call is 9 to 11, and whatever your time zone is on a Tuesday. Second highest ratio of calling is 1 to 3, in the afternoon on that same Tuesday. So leave your Tuesdays for cold calling and try to set your meetings, Wednesday to Thursday or outside of those times on Tuesday.
Okay, that's a good rule of thumb.
Yep. So when we get down to the discovery call, I think that's the next step in the stage of how we're building this pipeline straight out of the bat. Hey, you need to be well versed in what you're talking about. In cybersecurity, you're not working with business minded people. You will get to those people, but generally you're probably working with someone in the trenches that needs the tool you're talking about. They're either losing time or whatever tool they have breaks. So that pivot point is, you're trying to listen of, hey, I, first of all, you want to thank them for being gracious, to spend time with you. And that
Mhm.
actually, again, makes another deposit into your conversation bank of thanks for your time. Raj, thanks for having me on this podcast. You're so gracious with your time to have me on here. Same thing with your client. So you build up some rapport and then you need to be ready. I think we were talking about having use cases, stories, not just understanding a product and feature selling. We need to sell these days with use cases and stories. And that's how I've been able to differentiate myself from the other AEs for, so to say on the call. And then
Jonathan, it's funny. One of the things that I've always hammered into my staff is this one line. I didn't come up with the line, but I use it all the time. Facts tell, stories sell.
yep.
It is by far the number one way we've been able to sell deals is by explaining things, and you tell a story and you show somebody how they can be a hero in the story and that they can have that story become their story. That's big. That's
Yeah.
big. So tell me, what did you do there? What were the conversations like?
Yeah. For example, I think one of the biggest, most powerful stories is the true ones. So, we have some technology at the I'll say MSPX that I'm working for, and it was able to take a 0 day, reverse engineer it. So it's hey, it's useful information, and they have it to the partners and the MSP partners as little as an hour.
Hmm.
So when the next threat comes out, call it Black Cat 12 or whatever version it is, you can run it through your edge and down to your endpoint and find out exactly in the MITRE framework what's going to happen. And then the solution would give you, unique insights, a hash or script to go paste in your SIM so you can detect that new threat or, go ahead and put it in your EDR, your edge device so you can block it. So understanding, hey, I've got a new technology, I've got something unique. And then, they had a unique phrase too, like, hey, here's how you know what you don't know about your cybersecurity stack. Once we have this unique perspective, then asking the customer, listening to see how engaged they are with that. And if they're not, asking them emotional, intelligent questions going, could you see that being useful in your environment? How could you
Hmm.
see yourself using that kind of tool? You know,
Yeah.
and that really establishes usefulness. Hey, this is a resource you didn't know about because almost no one knows about it. So,
In fact, what I found really, these are what I would call mini closes all along the way. Because what you're doing is you're trying to get the customer, the prospect, to say yes. just throughout the whole conversation. And the more mini closes, the more buy-ins of, do you see how this could help you in this situation? Does this make sense to you? Do you see how this can actually save you money? Those types of questions, getting acknowledgement from them along the way, I think is really important in closing these deals. You don't wait. A lot of people just like give a whole presentation and then they wait to the end. Hey, do you have any questions? And then they think that that's like they're going to. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's not how the mind works. We're not like just a sitcom waiting for the punchline at the end of the show. We're actually, we're actually looking for those little things along the way. So I
Well,
appreciate that you do that. Yeah.
no, that's insightful. And at the end of the day, a really good AE, wants to get into some of the technical. They want to know everything, but not every AE is, been in the game long enough. So for those AEs that are dragging the sales engineer in, a sales engineer and their mindset is, they want to geek out on the technology and share the excitement of the tool and some of the technical details. And we can get lost there and we can overwhelm the customer. So, reading the person, are they quiet? And when they are quiet, do we have a phrase for that to get them out of that mud? Because I've had, I've had people who've been in IT for 30 years. They're not understanding the new technology. And I'll just have a phrase like, it sounds like your gears in your head might be spinning. What is it about this tool that you may have more questions about, or any curiosities, or, how does this compare to what you use now? Just to get them out of that quicksand. And make sure that we're working on ground and moving forward in their understanding. And like you said, in the small closes.
The words that you chose here are pretty important for everyone to understand, because it's clear that paying attention, it makes a big difference. If you're doing a screen share and you're looking at the screen and you're not seeing the visual cues of what how that person's reacting, or if there's a group of them, if someone's kind of tuning out, if you don't say something to kind of like reel them back in, like you mentioned, hey, I noticed the gears in your head are turning. To talk to me more about that. What kinds of things are you thinking about right now? I think those little things are just so important to keep that conversation engaged, because otherwise you're just a talking head and you've lost them and you don't even know it because you're focused on just what's on your screen. So very important to stay tuned into that. And
Yeah.
it's easy to get sucked into, especially in a Zoom meeting. So.
Absolutely. And there's another one. Hey, if they go, how does this work, or how does that work? Really try not to find yourself talking more than 2 to 3 minutes and go, now I've said a lot, Raj, where did that sit with you? Is that helping your understanding grow? Do you have any more questions? I think just being respectful and cognizant that, hey, I'm here to educate you. Stop me. I want to be a great teacher. I'm not here to walk out going, hey, I said everything I need to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to listen and make sure you grab the concept right.
Yeah. And I think one of the big takeaways here is that Jonathan's talking about a consultative sale. And you can see just by the way he's talking, he knows his stuff. He knows the market. He knows the pros and cons of different tools. He knows the benefits of using his tool. So it's not like you just get in there and you start pitching your product based on a benefit sheet or feature sheet that you're given by your leadership. You actually need to pay attention and get in there and start learning. And if you don't know it, do some homework over the weekend, get to know it, and that's if you want to make those big commission checks, put in the time, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think, my bosses, there's been several bosses, you're only a fool once, right? If you ask a question, but you're a fool over and over and over if you don't go, hey, I just don't know how this works, right? So get into an MSP. I think the benefit of being an account executive and then ultimately an enterprise executive is there's big dollars in it. And if you get in and you start small and you cold call and you get off the ground, build your pipe, you've proven your worthiness, but don't ever forget that you don't know everything. An MSP is consisting of, 20, 40, 200, however many employees, you're a team. So don't be afraid to ask your team questions so that you're even more prepared for the next conversation. And my team would tell you, Jonathan would keep it, he would message us at 11, on Saturday night. And, God, we were all laughing because it was a dumb question, but he's not afraid to ask it, and my team would
great.
say,
That's great. Well, so now I want to hear how you shaped the conversation from that discovery call into next steps. Like, what else did you learn? And just so everybody listening knows, not long ago, my actual former senior VP of revenue. Of sales, Matt Melnick, who he did a podcast with us on the perfect discovery call, and he walked through the entire process of actually doing a discovery call. And I encourage you to. We'll put the show notes, a link in the show notes below. But Jonathan, I'd love to hear about how you took that conversation next. Like, what are the things that you're trying to get the customer to say, the prospect to say, and then how do you start converting that into what's going to make you a lot of money, the sale?
Yeah, no, thanks. I think at the end of the day, I mentioned earlier in another conversation we had about how I started, learning more and more about everything in cybersecurity. Not even products we sold, but maybe products the customer might have. They say, "Hey, I've got X tool. I want to know a little bit about it," right? So I get familiar with everything. I get familiar with my company's process. So when I'm in the bigger rooms, then I'm even that more ready. It's not a question of what to say; it's how to say it. So when I mentioned, "Hey, we've got X product," and how do you see that fitting? Oh yeah, we see value. Now I'm chasing their interest in whatever I'm saying, whatever they're saying. Oh, we're not interested in the EDR. We need to refresh our firewalls right now. Okay, great. So, having a good conversation about the next technology and what you're looking for. I'm chasing their interest, right? So I've got 10 products to sell. What interests you about what we sell? So let's go down that lane in a discovery call. And then what I'm looking for next is sharing a story about the product they have and the product I'm selling. So one example was we were working with a telco company, and they had really good products. If you just said, "Hey, I'm using this product or that product," I guess I'll say Palo Alto and Cylance, and then they go, "Oh, we're going to switch from Cylance to SentinelOne. This is AI based EDR technology. This is on the cutting edge." Probably 9 months, 10 months ago, people thought really highly of SentinelOne. So when we're going, okay, you've got a product. I know something about that product you probably don't, and that is that it has a weakness. So I'm thinking about the value that I'm going to position of why you're talking to me, why buy from me, is I know something you don't. So I had another case where someone had a breach with SentinelOne, and it all comes down to SentinelOne. You have to custom code your own IOCs. So when you're in cybersecurity, it's going to make sense to you, but that stands for indicator of compromise. So when you've been compromised, if you didn't write the alert right, you're not going to get notified. So you could have breach activity happening, and other products on the market don't have that issue. So when they said, "We have Palo Alto on the edge and SentinelOne," I know, ding, ding, ding. Let me share something about the product you have that you probably don't know.
That is a great line. That is a great line. Let me share something that you probably don't know. Yeah. Beautiful line. So everybody's all ears. What? Right? Yeah. If they weren't paying attention, they're paying attention now.
Yeah. Now I'm not just the 100th demo you're doing. The disco call you're doing this week. Okay. Whoa. Now I've got an insight. Yeah. So be unique, be insightful, be a resource, and you'll get used. And once I share that, then they want to hear the story. Okay, so I have this tool. We take the ransomware, we throw it across your Palo Alto to land on a computer behind, using SentinelOne or whatever EDR it is. And we're going to show you what gets through, right? So we've reverse engineered all these malware. We got up to 15,000 pieces of ransomware malware that we can throw across the line. Do you know that there was one time where I was talking to a company and they thought they were good, they were confident, and I just said, "Well, can I show you this attack? Can I just run 100 pieces of threads and let's see if we can uncover something that you didn't know?" And again, what are we talking about? We're talking about going from a discovery call to a deep dive of that product, and then to a POC, proof of concept or proof of value. And for proof of value in an MSP, you really want to get buy-in on, hey, do you have the budget? Like, if I could show you something that you've never seen before and provide that value and wow you, would you click purchase on that? Right. And we want buy-in. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, if you could, totally blow up in my firewall and EDR, absolutely. We'd pull the trigger on it. Well, and do you have budget? right? So do
Mhm.
you actually have the budget? So
Yeah.
these are key things. You can't just sit around and run POCs. You waste all your time and energy. But
Yeah.
this customer did. And they said, yeah, we'd love to do this. So the first batch, the first threats we throw across, 100% gets through their Palo Alto. We
Mhm.
know completely something's wrong. We know, and it's a big wrong. It's their SSL certs weren't set up properly. They're not doing any SSL inspection. So
Mhm. Mhm.
that was major. Like, oh, wow, we didn't know. And then they had to go do research and come to find out their sister company was managing that device and they had no admin rights and they were just trusting the words hey, yeah, it's all set up. You're good to go. They had no way to verify and check that.
Hmm.
So
Isn't it
value.
surprising that this kind of stuff still happens in larger companies? Like we think that, okay, they're a larger company, they got larger teams and everything's fine, but it's actually not the case. There's still holes. And
People
so
make
it's not,
mistakes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. People just
yeah,
we're all human. So, and there's
yeah.
no software out there that's foolproof. Everything can
Yeah.
be breached. So we understand that in cybersecurity.
Hmm.
And if someone's not telling you that, then they're probably not the right MSP for you either.
Right. So now you've got a test where you just wanted to see what gets through. 100% of what you tried to pump through actually gets through. In other words, they could have had a very major security situation on their hands. So what happens next? At this point, they're probably a little nervous.
Yeah, so they're nervous. They want to go do their research. They want to figure out. And again, we complete the test, which means not only do we send the threats across the Palo Alto, we send it down to the device. And the amount that got through Sentinel-1 was shocking. So it
Mhm.
wasn't what we've seen on our benchmarks of that product. So we said, guys, there's something wrong here. No, we have a good synergy with partners, so we give that feedback, and we find out the custom coding of the IOCs is different with Sentinel-1 than it is with, say, Microsoft or CrowdStrike. And that's where we see those other tools are more effective when you really throw ransomware and malware at them. So we
Mhm.
shared, hey, you paid X dollars for this tool that you have, and it's leaving you wide open. For the same price, I can get you something that'll have an efficacy score of 70% versus your 38. Which tool would you rather have? And now they bought
Mhm.
Sentinel-1 3 months ago. They are breaking their budget. They are breaking their purchase cycle, buying a product, you know, mid cycle.
Off cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
off cycle. Yeah, mid yeah. Interesting. Look at that. See, now this is really interesting because a lot of times people think, oh, I lost the deal. I'll call them back and say, 8 months, 9 months just to try to get on their radar before the renewal time. Here you are talking to them like just 3 months after they made the purchase. And just by showing value, you were able to convince them to then reallocate new budget that they hadn't put in their other budget because they were scared out of their minds that the security was going to go through, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
wow, this if they don't have the security in place, that could break their company.
Yeah.
So,
But and even then, we were poised and ready. Hey, if I could show you something amazing, is it something you guys would pull the trigger on? Do you have the authority
mhm,
to do that? And
yeah,
I talk to all kinds of companies. So when you're an enterprise account executive or just a regular SMB account executive, every company you're talking to is different. You got to ask yourself, you got to be ready to ask the BANT or the medic questions. But hey, have you ever purchased something for your company before? What does that process look like? Because I talk, and again, the communication bank, conversation bank, hey, I talk to a lot of companies. So I tell people up front, hey, I speak with a lot of companies. I speak with a lot of people. There's a lot of different procurement situations. Some people have board meetings. Some people, can pull the trigger up to $50,000. What is your unique situation? So that if I can provide the value to this product, if I can show you that this is the right product at the right price, and this is the right time, you could pull the trigger. How can I understand and help you get this across the line? I think
mhm.
that's the way we start positioning things.
Okay. And then that's how you start to get the buy-in, and then you follow the rest of your process. Is there more to it? Because it sounds to me like at that point you're really close to the sale. It's almost like, where do I send the check? So, what happens next? Let's close this one out.
Let's close this one out. So you've got legal, right? And your MSP is going to have some kind of MSA and some SOWs for this project to get, work on and work done. So, hopefully you've got templates of all that. And so for procurement, once you've understood what the process is, I just asked what it was. Now, who needs to be the person to, DocuSign? Like who's our signer, right? So we're making sure we get off the call knowing what's going on, who's the signer. Do they need to be a part of this process? Do you think they need to walk through this discovery call and this deep dive to get up to speed? And those people will tell you, oh, no, they trust me. Last time I purchased X amount of dollars, I just told them, or no, hey, I've got a board meeting. So you're going to find out that process, and then you're going to follow that process. If it's a lengthy one, a complex one, there's multiple board meetings. Like the enterprise AEs are probably listening going, oh yeah, now we're going to send, the MSA over. We're going to spend 6 to 12 months in legal, hell. That's that's the most popular term.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can call other vendors and reps and go, hey, have you closed something with this company? What does that process look like? You can get some insights from your vendor partners. And, now we're just playing the game. Is there a board meeting? Okay. Is there someone we need to get up to speed on this product, build more ambassadors? And then my favorite is your detractors. How are you going to find your detractors? Hey, Raj, who's going to, smack your hand or smack you in the face when you try to bring them this invoice for $60K a year?
Yeah.
And it's funny and get us kind of cheeky. And people like that. Like, oh yeah, I tried to get this and so,
Yeah.
Okay. Should they be a part of this call? Or have we built enough value? Or, do you need help relaying that message? Do you need some presentations, numbers, yada, yada? So I've said a lot, Raj. I'm going to stop right here.
Which is a technique, right? It's one of my favorites. It's like, hey, I've been talking for a while. Let me put a time out here and just say, hey, do you have any questions? That's my line. I love using that. And when I used to sell the products that I had, which in fact, I think when you and I met years ago, the company that was one of my clients, that's actually the pitch that's part of my sales pitch to them. And so I like this. I'm going to go into part 2 in just a moment. So if anybody wants to listen into the next section, it's going to be part of the second podcast in this series, this 2-part series. We're going to show how Jonathan actually closed a $500,000 deal. Stay tuned. I think you're going to really enjoy this one.
Awesome.